20 neighborhoods, 1 century, and in every one of them, somebody who started with nothing died a millionaire. We're taught that black wealth in this country starts somewhere around the civil rights movement, that before that there was survival and not much else. The record says otherwise. A barber born enslaved in Georgia owned an insurance company by 1905. A carpenter who reached Miami with $5 in his pocket bought a private island in 1918. In Kansas City, a man sold $2 million worth of cars before the Great Depression started. None of these neighborhoods went broke. Almost every one of them was taken. Same wall, 20 different directions. Let's count them down. 20. Freedmen's Town, Houston. 4th Ward, Houston, 1865. People walked in from the plantation southwest of the city along San Felipe Road, and they had nothing. No land, no money, no legal existence a year earlier. The city refused to pave their streets. So they made their own bricks by hand and laid them themselves, in a herringbone pattern, block after block. Some of those bricks are still in the ground. You can go stand on them. By the 1920s, Freedmen's Town had somewhere north of 400 black-owned businesses, doctors, funeral homes, groceries, printers, a hospital. Property that people who had been legally owned bought outright inside of one generation. I'm starting here because nobody in Freedmen's Town became famous. This is what the base of the pyramid looked like. Everything else on this list is built on people who did exactly this, and then got lucky enough to be remembered. Number 19, Idlewild, Michigan. This one is a resort, and it makes the list because of who could afford to go. Idlewild opened in 1912 in rural western Michigan. Black families could not check into hotels in most of this country, so a group of investors bought lake property and sold lots to black buyers. By the 1950s, Idlewild was pulling in around 25,000 people on a summer weekend. 25,000. In the woods, in Michigan. Du Bois had property here. So did Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, the surgeon who performed one of the first successful heart surgeries in America. Madam C.J. Walker bought in. Idlewild tells you something the wealth statistics don't. There was enough black money in the middle of the 20th century to fill a resort town every weekend for 40 years, and almost nobody outside those families has ever heard of the place. 18. Bruce's Beach, Manhattan Beach, California. Willa and Charles Bruce bought oceanfront land in Manhattan Beach in 1912 for $1,225 and opened a beach resort for black families because black families were not allowed on the other beaches. It worked. It worked well enough that the white residents complained, then harassed the guests, then set a fire. In 1924, the city took the land by eminent domain and said they needed a park. Then they left it empty for decades. Here's the part that got national attention. In 2022, Los Angeles County returned the land to the Bruce family's descendants. In 2023, the descendants sold it back to the county for $20 million. $20 million 99 years late to great-grandchildren who never got to run the business. I go back and forth on how to feel about that ending. It's the only case on this list where anybody paid anything back at all. 17. Mound, Bayou, Mississippi, founded 1887 by Isaiah Montgomery, in the middle of the Mississippi Delta, on swampland nobody else wanted. Montgomery had been enslaved on Joseph Davis's plantation. Joseph Davis was the brother of Jefferson Davis, president of the Confederacy. So, a man enslaved by the Confederate president's family walked out and founded a town. The man who turned it into money was Charles Banks. He came in around 1904, opened the Bank of Mound Bayou, and started financing cotton for black farmers who could not get credit anywhere else in Mississippi. They called him the Wizard of Mound Bayou. Booker T. Washington called it a model of what black self-government could look like and brought visitors down to see it. At its height, Mound Bayou had a bank, a cotton oil mill, a newspaper, a hospital, and about 8,000 people in the surrounding settlement, in a state where a black man could be killed for looking at somebody wrong. 16. Boley, Oklahoma. Oklahoma had more all-black towns than any other state. Estimates put the national total across all of American history as high as 1,200. Boley was the biggest and the loudest about it. Over 4,000 residents, a bank, an electric plant, a water system, a newspaper, 2 colleges, and a black mayor and black sheriff at a time when that combination did not exist anywhere else people could point to. Booker T. Washington came twice and wrote it up for Outlook magazine in 1908. There's a story people in Boley still tell. In 1932, the Pretty Boy Floyd gang tried to rob the Farmers and Merchants Bank. The townspeople shot them. 2 of the robbers died in the street. They came to take the money and the town shot back. I don't think you need me to explain the symbolism there. 15. U Street, Washington, D.C. They called it Black Broadway. Duke Ellington was born 4 blocks off U Street in 1899 and grew up walking it. The money story here is the Whitelaw Hotel. In 1919, a man named John Whitelaw Lewis, who had come to Washington as a manual laborer, put together a company of black investors, hired a black architect, and built a full luxury hotel on 13th and T because black travelers could not stay downtown. Black financing, black architect, black construction crew, black guests. In 1919, in the capital of a segregated country. By the 1920s, U Street had the Industrial Savings Bank, the Lincoln Theater, the Howard Theater a few blocks over, and Howard University at the top of the hill, feeding lawyers and doctors and dentists into the neighborhood every single year. That last part matters more than the buildings. Howard was a machine that produced a black professional class, and U Street was where that class spent its money. 14. Indiana Avenue, Indianapolis. Madam C.J. Walker is usually filed under Harlem, and Harlem is where she died. But the factory was here. Walker moved her manufacturing operation to Indianapolis in 1910 because it was a rail hub and she could ship from it. The Walker building went up on Indiana Avenue in 1927. After her death, 4 stories with a theater, a ballroom, a beauty college, and offices, all paid for out of a hair care company started by a woman who had been a washerwoman making $1.50 a day. She's commonly called the first self-made female millionaire in America. People argue about that title. Nobody argues about the factory. Indiana University's medical center expansion took most of Indiana Avenue in the second half of the century. The Walker Building survived. Almost nothing around it did. 13. Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, Detroit. 2 neighborhoods, 1 economy. Black Bottom was where people lived. Paradise Valley was where the businesses and the clubs were. Sidney Barthwell built a drugstore chain here. 13 stores at the peak, the largest black-owned drugstore chain in the country. Detroit kids remember his ice cream counters before they remember the pharmacy. And in 1959, a man who had been working the Lincoln Mercury assembly line borrowed $800 from his family's savings cooperative and started a record company. $800. Berry Gordy. Motown. By 1970, that $800 had become the most successful black-owned business in America. And it came out of a family co-op in a neighborhood the city was in the middle of demolishing. Because that's the other half. The city took Black Bottom for the Chrysler Freeway and for Lafayette Park. Thousands of families, hundreds of businesses. Gone in a few years. The money left with them, and it never came back to that ground. Number 12, Central Avenue, Los Angeles. July 23, 1925, 3 men named William Nickerson Jr., Norman O. Houston, and George Beavers Jr. rented a 1-room office at 1412 Central Avenue and started an insurance company because California insurers were treating black customers as uninsurable or charging them prices designed to make them go away. Within 3 months, they had outgrown the room. Within 3 years, they had over 100 employees and branches in Pasadena, Bakersfield, San Diego, and Fresno. In 1928, they built their own headquarters at 4261 Central Avenue using black designers and black labor, and later hired Paul R. Williams, the most accomplished black architect in America, for the building the company is remembered by. Golden State Mutual became the largest black-owned business west of the Mississippi. It ran for 84 years. 2 blocks away, Dr. John Somerville, the first black graduate of USC's dental school, built the Hotel Somerville in 1928 and hosted the NAACP's National Convention in it, the first one ever held in the West. You know it now as the Dunbar. Every black entertainer who came through Los Angeles for the next 30 years slept there, because nowhere else would take them. Number 11, 18th and Vine, Kansas City. I love this one because of how specific the number is. Homer B. Roberts served in World War I as the first black commissioned officer in the Army Signal Corps, came home to Kansas City and noticed something obvious that nobody had acted on. Black people were buying cars, and no black person was selling them. He opened the Roberts Motor Mart in 1919. In 1923, he and a black realtor named John Sears put up a building at 19th and Vine for about $70,000. Ground floor was a sales office, a 40-car showroom, and a garage. By 1929, Homer Roberts had sold more than $2 million worth of automobiles. $2 million in 1920s money, one car at a time, almost all of it to black customers out of a district a few blocks wide. 18th and Vine also had the Negro League's headquarters and Charlie Parker growing up in it. The music gets all the documentaries. The car dealership was the bigger business. Number 10. Hill District, Pittsburgh. August Wilson set 9 plays here, so people know the name and not much else. 2 men. Robert L. Vann was one of only 5 black lawyers in Pittsburgh in 1910 when he took a job as legal counsel for a tiny new neighborhood newsletter called the Pittsburgh Courier. He ended up editor and publisher and ran it for 30 years. Under him, it went from a Hill District pamphlet to the biggest black newspaper in the country, read internationally. And in 1932, Vann is credited with swinging the black vote away from the Republican Party and to Franklin Roosevelt. A black newspaperman in Pittsburgh moved a presidential election. Then there's Gus Greenlee, who is a more complicated figure, and I'm not going to clean him up. He ran numbers. That's where the capital came from. But he took that money and bought the Crawford Grill, then bought the Pittsburgh Crawfords in 1931, then founded the Negro National League in 1933 and ran it, then built Greenlee Field, one of the only ballparks in the country actually owned by a black team instead of rented from a white one. He also managed a boxer named John Henry Lewis, who won the light heavyweight championship of the world on Halloween night in 1935. Illegal money, legitimate empire. That happened in a lot of these neighborhoods, and most videos leave it out. I don't think you understand black wealth in this period if you pretend the numbers men weren't half the bank. 9. Cedar Central, Cleveland. Garrett Morgan grew up the son of formerly enslaved parents in Kentucky, with a 6th grade education, and moved to Cleveland at 17 with a dime in his pocket. He fixed sewing machines. Then he invented a better one. Then he opened a tailoring shop. Then he invented a safety hood, which is basically the first practical gas mask. And in 1916, he personally went down into a collapsed tunnel under Lake Erie wearing it and pulled men out. Then he invented a 3-position traffic signal and sold the patent to General Electric in 1923 for $40,000. $40,000 in 1923. That's roughly $750,000 today for one patent from a man with a 6th grade education. He also founded the Cleveland Call, which merged into the Call and Post, one of the longest-running black newspapers in the country. Fire departments across the country bought his gas mask, and some of them only found out he was black afterward and canceled the orders. He started sending a white man to do the demonstrations. 8. Overtown, Miami. Dana Albert Dorsey was born in Quitman, Georgia in 1872. His parents had been enslaved. He was the first child in the family born free. 4th grade education, taught himself the rest. He came to Miami with about $5 to work as a carpenter on Henry Flagler's railroad, and he started buying land nobody wanted, then building small houses on it and renting them to the black railroad workers who had nowhere to live. By 1914, he was listed as the only black real estate agent in the entire city of Miami. By 1915, he was Miami's first black millionaire, and he built his wife a house on Northwest 9th Street that's still standing. Then in 1918, he did something I still can't quite get over. He bought an entire island, the one now called Fisher Island, today one of the wealthiest zip codes in the United States. And the reason he bought it, according to the Miami Daily Metropolis at the time, was to build a beach resort for black families. Since the white beaches wouldn't have them, he eventually sold it, but for a stretch there, a carpenter's son who arrived with $5 owned a private island off the coast of Florida. Number 7. The Ville, St. Louis. Annie Turnbow Malone was orphaned young, sickly as a child, never finished high school, and started mixing hair treatments in her sister's kitchen. In 1918, she built Poro College in the Ville at a cost of somewhere around $500,000. A full city block at St. Ferdinand in Pendleton. Not a factory with a sign on it. A complex. Manufacturing plant. Classrooms. A 500-seat auditorium. Dining rooms. A roof garden. A chapel. Dormitories. Because black women coming to St. Louis for training had nowhere to sleep and nowhere to eat, so she built those into the business. Poro trained tens of thousands of sales agents across the country and abroad. Malone gave enormous amounts of it away, to the St. Louis Colored Orphans Home, to Howard University, to Tuskegee. At one point, she was reported to be among the wealthiest black women in America. She lost most of it later. Bad divorce settlement, tax fight, the Depression. That happens on this list more than once, and it's worth noticing that a lot of these fortunes did not survive their founder, and it usually wasn't for lack of business sense. 6. Jackson Ward, Richmond. They called it the Harlem of the South and also the Black Wall Street of the South, and Richmond had a serious claim to both. Maggie Lena Walker was the daughter of a formerly enslaved woman who worked as a laundress. In 1903, she chartered the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank on Jackson Ward's Main Street and became the first black woman in the United States to found a bank and serve as its president. Think about what a bank actually is. A bank decides who gets to buy a house. For 60 years, white banks in Richmond had answered that question for black families with a no. Maggie Walker's bank made thousands of home loans. It survived the Great Depression, which most banks did not. And through mergers, it kept operating into the 2000s as the oldest continuously black-operated bank in America. Her house on Lee Street is a National Historic Site. Go inside it if you're ever in Richmond. In the 1950s, the state ran Interstate 95 directly through Jackson Ward. Hundreds of homes and businesses came down, and the neighborhood was cut in half. 5. Beale Street, Memphis. Robert Reed Church Sr. was born enslaved in Holly Springs, Mississippi in 1839. His mother was an enslaved seamstress. His father was the white steamboat captain who owned her. He worked steamboats. He survived a sinking in 1855. He survived the Memphis Massacre of 1866, where white mobs killed dozens of black residents, and he was shot in the head during it and lived. Then yellow fever hit Memphis in the 1870s. It was so bad the city lost its charter. Anybody with money and the ability to leave, left, and property values collapsed. Church stayed and bought. He bought when everyone else was selling, and when Memphis came back, he owned a large piece of it. He founded Solvent Savings Bank, the first black-owned bank in the city, specifically so black residents could get credit to buy homes and start businesses. He is generally recognized as the first black millionaire in the American South. And then he built a park, 6 acres with an auditorium that seated 2,000, because the city's parks were closed to black residents. Booker T. Washington spoke there. So did Theodore Roosevelt. W.C. Handy played there. He bought that with his own money and gave the neighborhood a place to gather in a state that had legislated against exactly that. His daughter Mary Church Terrell became a founding member of the NAACP. 4. Hayti and Parrish Street, Durham. 7 black men in Durham founded North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance. 2 of the main ones were John Merrick, a barber who had been born enslaved, and Dr. Aaron McDuffie Moore, C.C. Spalding ran it and turned it into the giant. North Carolina Mutual became the largest black-owned business in the United States and held that position for most of the 20th century. In 1907, the same circle opened Mechanics and Farmers Bank, so the insurance premiums black families paid in got lent back out to black families as mortgages. The money made a loop and stayed inside the neighborhood. That loop is the whole thing. That's the mechanism behind every entry on this list. The business district on Parrish Street got called Black Wall Street. W.E.B. Du Bois came to look at it. So did Booker T. Washington, and those 2 men agreed on almost nothing, but they both came to Durham and both left impressed. Washington wrote afterward that he had found in Durham the sanest and most successful adjustment of racial difficulties he had seen anywhere in the country. Hayti was the residential side. Thousands of homes, its own churches, its own theater, its own everything. Urban renewal put the Durham Freeway through it in the 1960s. Over 4,000 households and 500 businesses were displaced. The promised redevelopment mostly never arrived. North Carolina Mutual's tower is still on the skyline. The neighborhood that built it is under a road. 3. Sweet Auburn, Atlanta. Alonzo Herndon was born enslaved in Social Circle, Georgia in 1858. 1 year of formal schooling, he learned to cut hair. He opened a barber shop on Peachtree Street with crystal chandeliers and marble floors, 25 chairs, serving the wealthiest white men in Atlanta. In 1905, he took what he'd saved and bought up a set of struggling black mutual aid associations and combined them into the Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Atlanta Life became one of the largest black-owned insurance companies in the country, and Herndon became Atlanta's first black millionaire. A man who was somebody's property in 1858 was a millionaire in the same city 50 years later. Auburn Avenue around him filled in with banks, funeral homes, the Atlanta Daily World, and Ebenezer Baptist Church, where a boy named Martin Luther King Jr. was born a few doors up the street in 1929. In 1956, Fortune magazine ran a piece calling Auburn Avenue the richest Negro street in the world. Then the state ran the downtown connector through it in the 1960s and cut Auburn Avenue in two. Number 2. Bronzeville, Chicago. There were 3 men, and I need all 3. Jesse Binga arrived in Chicago around the 1893 World's Fair with $10. He started leasing beat-up buildings in 1898, fixing them, subdividing them, renting them out for more. 10 years later, he opened the Binga Bank at 3637 South State Street, the first black-owned bank in Chicago. By 1921, it was the Binga State Bank, and it was the largest black-owned bank in the nation. White real estate interests bombed his house and his properties more than once because he sold to black buyers in white blocks and would not stop. Anthony Overton started by selling baking powder off a wagon. He built the Overton Hygienic Company into a cosmetics empire aimed at black women, and his pitch was that black women were already beautiful and did not need to look like anybody else. By 1927, that company alone was valued at over $1 million and employed 150 people, most of them black women in clerical and manufacturing jobs. He also founded the Chicago Bee newspaper, the Victory Life Insurance Company, and the Douglas National Bank, the second nationally chartered black-owned bank in America. For a period, he was described as the most successful black businessman in the country. And John H. Johnson borrowed $500 in 1942 against his mother's furniture, started Negro Digest, then Ebony in 1945 and Jet in 1951, and built the biggest black publishing house on earth out of the South Side. $500 of furniture. Somebody's mother said yes. The Depression took Binga's bank, and then the government prosecuted him for embezzlement, which a lot of black Chicago never accepted as legitimate. He served time. He got a full pardon in 1941. He died in 1950 more or less broke. 2 blocks of one neighborhood produced the largest black bank, the largest black cosmetics company, and the largest black publishing house in the country in roughly 40 years. Number 1. Greenwood, Tulsa. You knew. O.W. Gurley bought 40 acres in Tulsa in 1906 and made a decision that everything else came from. He would only sell to black buyers. That's it. That's the founding act. One man drew a line around 40 acres and said the money that comes in here stays in here. 35 city blocks, grocery stores, 2 newspapers, a bank, doctor's offices, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, a hospital, 2 movie theaters, a bus line. J.B. Stratford built the Stratford Hotel with 54 rooms, and it was the largest black-owned hotel in the United States. He was a lawyer, the son of a man who had been enslaved, and he built it because black travelers coming through Oklahoma had nowhere to sleep. People said $1 circulated in Greenwood somewhere between 19 and 100 times before it left. That specific number gets repeated a lot, and I can't verify it, so treat it as folklore rather than accounting. But the underlying fact is not folklore. Greenwood residents banked, shopped, ate, healed, and buried inside those 35 blocks. Booker T. Washington is credited with calling it the Negro Wall Street of America, May 31 into June 1, 1921. A white mob, deputized by the city and armed by it, burned all 35 blocks. Private planes flew over and dropped incendiary material, which, if it holds up as the record suggests, makes Greenwood one of the only places in America bombed from the air by its own countrymen. Around 10,000 people were left homeless overnight. Estimates of the dead run from several dozen in official counts up to around 300 in later investigations, and Tulsa is still looking for mass graves in 2026. Not one insurance claim was paid. The policies had riot exclusions. And then, and this is the part I want to leave you with, they rebuilt it. Within a few years, there were more businesses in Greenwood than there had been before the massacre. It took an interstate highway in the 1960s and urban renewal to finally finish the job that a mob with airplanes couldn't. 20 neighborhoods. Now count how the money died. Interstate 95 through Jackson Ward, the Durham Freeway through Hayti, the downtown connector through Sweet Auburn, Interstate 244 through Greenwood. Almost none of these places failed. They were profitable and they got removed anyway, mostly by a government office with a map and a pen. I don't have a tidy ending for that. I don't think there is one, but most of these addresses are still standing and you can go put your hand on them. Knowing the name is the least we can do. There are more of these than fit in one video, so subscribe and I'll keep pulling them up. Now tell me, which of these 20 is closest to where you grew up, and did anybody ever teach it to you in school? I already know the answer for most of you,